Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, tax and regulate gaming now. Also, Mike Durant's sister speaks out about incest. And there's polls, and more polls.
If you lose control,
Not that kind of poll. All this and much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and today I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter with APR. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Hey, guys.
You know, Josh, the two white guys talking, I don't know, we're out of that now, right?
Yeah.
You got me back.
Apparently.
May regret it, but you got me back.
Yeah, got canceled after 1 week. I don't know what happened.
Well, there you go. That cancel culture, man. Two white
That's
guys
right.
talking. It ain't that popular anymore.
Us white men, we're always the targets.
There's a reason for that.
I know. Hey, you know, Josh, and it's just one of those things. You've had a big couple of weeks in reporting over at APR. You know, Alabama political reporter. This past week, you broke two huge stories. One was on this unexpected gaming expansion over in Greene County, where you uncovered that they were actually, one of the places was giving people access to play video games on their phone and actually wager. And we saw it here in Montgomery, wagers being made on a casino in Greene County. This is why we need legislation to legalize, tax, and regulate gaming in Alabama. But give our viewers a little update on exactly what was going on.
Yeah, so apparently one of the casinos in Greene County, and there are several in that particular county that are operational, electronic bingo casinos, and in this casino, which this game was apparently tied to the Palace, although I understand that they were not the only ones participating in this, although I will say Green Track was not. And you know, it's a mobile gaming, basically mobile gambling. You could go in, use your rewards card with your gambling ID. They would set you up within the system, and then you were free to play on your cell phone wherever you might be, and which is pretty illegal in the state of Alabama. It's, I mean, there's no question about that. There are other casinos out here, including the Port Creek Indians, who would love to do that sort of thing, but they cannot do it. And but it's, you know, so they were doing that and had been getting away with it for a while because apparently there was very little oversight of this sort of thing. But that's kind of indicative of what's going on across the state. And when people say, like Greg Albritton says, you know, State Senator Greg Albritton says we need to pass this bill so we can put some regulations in place and control some of this that's happening. This is the sum of this that's happening, okay? That we're having an expansion of gaming that most people probably aren't aware of that's taking place all over this state. It's not just in Greene County. There's problems in Jefferson County. There's problems in Walker County. There's some problems in the northeastern part of the state. There's some problems down in South Alabama as well. This sort of thing is everywhere because there's so much money being made by these casinos, and there's so very little punishment. If they get caught doing this, all of the punishments are misdemeanors. And, you know, until that changes, they're going to keep doing it because there's just too much money out there.
I mean, Susan, you know, and people can differ on this, but I think that's very clear. Greene County, Macon County,
Isn't it Houston?
have what's the other county? What's the other county, Josh?
Lowndes
County, that's it.
Have constitutional amendments. They have operated inside the guidelines of that. They have worked hard. The Porch Creek have federal license to operate. They don't do these shenanigans.
No. Victory Land, Wind Creek, and Green Track. They play by the rules. They pay strictly by the rules. They've readjusted their machines to make everything, make everybody happy. But then you've got all these other people out there running around and doing all this illegal stuff. Well, it bounces back on them as well. And because people that are against gambling just see it all as one thing. Well, it's not.
And Josh, this is the hard fact. There is gambling, legal gambling in Alabama already, but you have these people, and I don't discount their sincere beliefs, but I discount the accuracy of their argument. We need to realize that we have a problem, and it's not at Green Track or in Birmingham over at the horse track or at the Porch Creek. It's these lawless casinos that are operating.
Yeah, there's a reason why. That's what I keep telling people. There's a reason why these facilities were included in the bill. It's because these guys, they're known commodities. The guys that run Victory Land in the Birmingham Racecourse, Green Track, the Mobile Greyhound Park, and the Porch Creek Indian facilities. They have operated in the state for decades now. They follow the laws that are on the books for them. Okay, now there's been disagreement over what is legal and what is illegal with them.
Exactly.
But they have gone back and forth with the law. And I'll give you a prime example of this. At Birmingham, they had electronic bingo machines there for a brief period of time. They said that was illegal. They did not have a constitutional amendment in that county, in Jefferson County, to play those games. They removed those machines and replaced them with historical horse racing machines that the Attorney General has approved for them to operate in that thing.
Right.
Mobile, which is operated primarily by the Porch Creek Indians, asked to play the same horse racing games. Because of the difference of the facilities, the Attorney General's office said no, they didn't play the games. Exactly. That's the difference in these guys and what's taking place at some of these other sites, and why they're not included is because we feel like these are Alabama businessmen that have treated this with respect and tried to follow the laws as though, especially when they felt like they were being treated fairly, and at least tried to follow federal laws and doing the gaming at their establishments.
And the thing is, Susan, and this is what we keep saying, is that the people of Alabama want to vote on this issue, and we can't get lawmakers to give them an opportunity to vote. Now, the easiest thing to do is to call a special session sometime in June and pass the legislation that regulates taxes and codifies what's legal. But it has to happen soon.
It has to happen soon. We need to get this argument over with. This has been going on too long. As you can see, the regulations not being there are causing problems across the state. People want to at least vote on it, whether they want to vote up or down. Legislators, it's not whether you want the gambling or not. It's not you voting for gambling. The people have to vote on it, and you know that.
Right, and
so
the thing
let's
is,
get it done.
Josh, the best way to do this, and we only got 9 seconds, so I'll have to end this. The best way to do this is get it on the general election ballot in November and let the most Alabamians vote it up or down. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
KIV shut the churches down, but kept the abortion clinics open. KIV is aiding and abetting murder when she allowed the abortion mills to stay open. Lindy Blanchard is a defender of life. She adopts children. She stands for life. She's the most pro-life candidate for governor I've ever known. That's why I'm supporting Lindy Blanchard for governor of the state of Alabama, the governor we need.
So you got caught speeding. But this time you got more than a ticket.
What are you in for?
Vehicular homicide.
Stop speeding before speeding stops you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
I'm Donald Trump, and I love Alabama.
As many of you know, there are few issues facing our nation as important as election integrity and election fraud. This is why the people of the great state of Alabama must work together to make it easier to vote and harder to cheat. So get out, register to vote, and get a photo ID so you can make your voice heard and decide the future of our great country. Thank you.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. As I mentioned earlier, Josh, you've had a busy week out there and doing investigative reporting. One of the most troubling stories that I've ever had to talk about or witness, and that is that Mike Durant, who's running for U.S. Senate, his father molested Mike Durant's sister, Mary Durant Ryan, from the time she was a child until she was college age. And when Mike Durant found out about it, he confronted his father. His father confessed to him. Mike Durant acknowledged it, but then turned around and turned on his sister back in the 90s and accused her of lying, accused her of having mental issues, and so on and so forth. You have spoken with Mary Durant on several occasions, most recently you sat down with her in her home state of North Carolina. Let's listen to this first clip.
And then I think initially he tried to do the right thing, but then when he realized how hard it was going to be to do the right thing, he didn't want to do it. And it was much easier to go into denial. It was much easier to get mad at me and blame me. It was like all the hostility that should have gone towards the person who did the crime instead got shifted off onto me.
Josh, what's your reaction to this? I mean, when you sat there with Mary Durant, I mean, it had to be compelling, but listening to this again, this is troubling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is Mary Ryan, is a very impressive lady. And this interview with her and the straightforward way in which she went about it was, it was just very, I don't know of a better word than impressive. It was just a very impressive way that she handled everything. And, listening to her talk about her brother and what he did and try to, she's gone through years of therapy. So trying to put this into some context and trying to wrap her head around it, you can tell it took her years to try to figure out exactly what was going on there and come to some form of acceptance of what happened. And, it's very hard. It's, her saying, he tried to do the right thing, but it was just too hard. And, and can you imagine how hard it was on her?
Yeah, I mean, Susan, this is just a family tragedy.
It is.
But this man wants to be a U.S. Senator. I mean, how can he?
I don't understand how you could turn your back on your family member when the father admitted to Mike Durant that he had done these things. And then he turned on her and tried to make it all about her. I mean, Mike Durant did. What kind of person actually does those things? What kind of things go through their mind that would cause them to turn hostilities toward them?
And I want to turn to this next clip. Mike did an interview back in the 90s where he said that his sister was disturbed, that she was lying. Meanwhile, he eventually wrote books calling his father a hero. Let's roll the next clip.
He knew I had way too much evidence to say that it hadn't happened. So instead, his strategy was to try to minimize it and to try to say that it was less than what it was. And, how classic to say that I was exaggerating. It's like you don't go to the perpetrator to find out how bad the abuse was. You go to the victim to find out how bad the abuse was. The perpetrator's always going to minimize. That's what they do. If they don't deny, they minimize. So, Mike just went along with all of that.
Susan, he blamed the victim. He blamed the victim.
He did, and it's as Mary says, and when we've talked whether this is classic, this is not, something that's unusual in families of incest, what's called the incest nest. Yes, he turned on her and made it seem like his father was, some sort of hero, and she was some sort of person that was just trying to stir trouble for him and his father, not acknowledging the fact that this had actually happened and it actually, damaged her.
I mean, Josh, let's roll this next clip, and then I want you to comment on this one. This is a very important one right here.
You know, it was quite clear that he was using his notoriety to, as a weapon against me, to make people question my credibility. Even though I had all this evidence, signed confessions, he still was trying to make people not believe me.
I mean, I don't know, what do you say? This guy was promoted by the Army as some kind of hero. He wrote books where he really cast himself in that role as a hero. Even now, he's running for office as some kind of military hero, but he did not have the courage and guts to stand up for his sister. This is an important issue.
Yeah, well, you know, I think the most troubling part is not that he didn't have the courage to stand up for his sister. It's that he, in this interview specifically, he attacked her credibility. And really undercut her story of abuse here. I mean, his comments during that interview in which he said his father, oh yeah, my father used to spank us, but nothing more than that. And, he's not the monster that Mary's making him out to be. And, there were a lot of things that he said in this interview, which he knew that at this point now, let's keep in mind, his father had confessed to him. His father had signed a written confession in which he agreed to enter into a treatment plan with Mary that she was holding him to. Otherwise, she was going to press charges against him. So there's no question of the guilt in this particular part. There's no question about what happened. And he went on national TV and he did this. And the result of that, Mary said, was that it crushed her. She spent the next week in a psychiatric hospital, suicidal. It took her months, if not years, to kind of stabilize after that because of, this is the person she trusted the most with this. Is the first person she went to in her family was her brother, with what happened to her with her father. And this is kind of what he did. And there's, that to me is, man, I don't know that will ever be an explanation for that.
Susan, we got about 12 seconds here, but if a father's sneaking into his own daughter's room and raping her is not a monster, I don't know what a monster is.
I tell you what a bigger monster is, one that takes his daughters in front to his father knowing he's a pedophile.
Well, he did that.
He did.
All right, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Hi, everybody. I'm Randy Owen. I want to encourage you to join me in voting yes on the State Parks Amendment on Alabama's primary election ballot May the 24th. Voting yes signals your support for outdoor recreation and will help maintain and expand all 21 state parks, from DeSoto State Park on Lookout Mountain to Gulf State Park on the coast. Our state parks are one of the many reasons I'm glad my home's in Alabama. Hope you'll join me in voting yes for our state parks on May 24th.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Katie Britt, no relationship to you and I, even though people seem to think that's true, and it wouldn't bother me one bit. It wouldn't bother me a bit. She's a wonderful woman, a great family. But all that aside, Katie Britt is now leading handily in the polls. Some of them show her double digits. Over Mike Durant and Mo Brooks.
Yeah, one of the last polls showed her at 27% of the respondents that they'd vote for her, where Durant and Brooks are now tied at like 20%. It's interesting now that Katie's going up, Durant's backing, sliding backwards, and Mo Brooks coming a little forward on that. So it's kind of interesting there because in some other polls, you've got Katie at 38%, Durant at 27%, and Brooks has come up to 22%.
Josh, polls are a snapshot in time, but, when this thing started, Mo Brooks was way ahead with 40 points. Now he is at 20 or 20-something, and Durant at one point was 35, 36, 37 points ahead. He has slid back. There is no time left. People are making up their mind, and this race is going into probably a runoff. But I don't even know who's going to be in the runoff other than Katie Britt.
Yeah, it seems like she has she's been the most stable of the candidates. There's no doubt about that. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how to take some of the polling on this. I think you have to kind of combine the polls that you get to get a better idea of what we're looking at, and because they seem to fluctuate so much from 1 week to the next, which I guess is kind of indicative of that big number of undecideds that are on most of these polls. But yeah, I will say it's no real surprise that Durant has fallen off. I think anybody who does this semi-regularly could take a look at all of those numbers for him and knew that they were kind of phony based on the fact that nobody had really attacked him. Nobody had really gone after him for anything at that point. He had basically been ignored and had gotten into the lead for that. And sure enough, as soon as the attack ads came out and people started to take a look at, hey, who is Mike Durant? And nobody knew who the hell the guy was. Then it started to take its toll on his numbers. And so, I don't know. I think for Mo Brooks, he's got to avoid Donald Trump saying anything negative about him for the next couple of weeks.
Well, I'm Durant, too. I think it's also the fact that he won't answer any questions. He won't, and some reporters' questions, he refuses to debate. And Alabama voters don't really like that. They want to be talked to. They want to hear what you've got to say. And I think that's really hurting him, too.
I think so, too. And I want to double back to this polling thing. There are a sizable number of undecideds, but historically, and especially if you talk to people who've run campaigns for years and years and years and observed them, historically, the undecideds will break primarily for the leader. Mm-hmm. So if Katie Britt is in front, as it appears, the majority of those undecideds will break for Katie Britt. They will not break and go to Durant or Mo Brooks. Mm-hmm. There will be some, but that's just an interesting aside there. Anything else you wanted to add there, Josh?
No, I think you're right about that. You look at Mo Brooks and Mike Durant, and I think that there's a lot of fluctuation in between the people that are voting for them. And I think this race is a real interesting one because of the person that you do know the best in here. Mo Brooks is a person that most people don't want to vote for, and then you have two relative unknowns. Although Katie Britt is born and raised in Alabama and been around here forever, and Mike Durant is kind of an outside the state guy, and so I think that it fluctuates a lot based on those factors too.
Yeah, and interesting. I brought up to somebody the other day, and I said, well, Katie Britt has not used her being a woman as a part of this campaign.
Because it shouldn't be.
And the guy that I was talking to, he said, well, she's run more like a man than either one of these.
She's outshot them. She's outhunted them.
Yeah. She's out talking to people, She goes out and talks to people. That's
and listens to what they say.
Well, being married to a woman who can make you cringe when she shoots a pistol and actually can hold up and work all day next side to any guy. I understand that. I want to move ahead here. Josh, is just unbelievable. This governor's race has just, I think, brought out the worst in some folks. Tim James, who I've known for years, always liked him, but he appeared at a church in Rainsville a couple weeks ago and basically recited where he was in Virginia Beach, I think it was, and he saw some people that,
Richmond.
He was in Richmond.
In Richmond. Yeah. Okay. Where he saw some folks that had mohawks and tattoos and dressed a little different. And he just called them freaks and just really went after them. Is that how low a campaign can go, that you have to go into a church and criticize the way people look. I mean, the church took down the video and apologized for Tim James's comments.
Yeah, and you know what? Good for them. That they decided that was a bridge too far. And I think we could also raise some questions about, why they're having a political candidate speak at a church in the first place. But it's a, I don't know what we're getting to. I mean, when your entire campaign is just based on fear mongering. And that's all Tim James's campaign has been. You should be afraid of all of these people, including children, who are a little bit different than you are, who live a different life, who believe different things. You have to be afraid of all these people, and we have to push them to the outer edges, and we have to make sure that they don't infringe upon our way of normal life, whatever we decide normal is for us. And
Right.
it's just detestable. It really is.
And Susan, the church said that their mission, their godly mission, was bring everyone together. We pass a sign here when we come into Montgomery, and it says, "There's a God in heaven who loves you." Do these people? I mean, it's sort of like their God is hate, and you brought this up before. I mean, where is that God in heaven that loves them? When these people on earth deliver so much hate.
I don't understand, because Jesus came here about love, about inclusion, bring the children on me. And let's not forget, don't judge lest ye be judged. Let's not forget that one too. And I think Tim James did a pretty heavy job of judging people on that one. But it's supposed to be about inclusion and making everybody feel welcome, not pointing out and calling people freaks and all that.
Well,
but if you got to hate in your religion, you need a new religion.
Well, unfortunately, everybody doesn't own khaki pants and those plaid shirts. But we're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.